Hockey is unpredictable, and that's exactly why we love it. Let's look at some of the wildest moments in NHL history. Let's beginning. At number 20, Marc-Andre Fleury's shootout. Let's talk about Marc-Andre Fleury. Fleury has always been known for his charisma, and let's be honest, his occasional weirdness. But recently, he took his goaltending to a whole new level by coming up with an innovative technique during shootouts. He started attacking players before they even got a chance to shoot. In one game, Fleury actually poke-checked a player twice in a shootout, and it worked both times. It was so bizarre that the refs didn't even know what to do. It was like Fleury had found a new cheat code for stopping penalty shots. I don't know if any other goalie will ever try it, but Fleury sure made it look easy. At number 19, the weirdest Stanley Cup winning goal ever. This next one is wild. It was Game 6 of the 2010 Stanley Cup Finals between the Chicago Blackhawks and the Philadelphia Flyers. The Blackhawks were leading the series 3-2, and they were one win away from winning the cup. The game went into overtime, and the Flyers were doing everything they could to keep the dream alive. But then, Patrick Kane made history with one of the weirdest goals I've ever seen. The puck went in, but no one saw it. Kane knew it was a goal, but everyone else was still unsure. The light didn't go on, the refs didn't blow the whistle. The Flyers bench was in complete shock, and the crowd didn't even know how to react. Kane was the only one celebrating, and honestly, it was like he was in a different universe at that moment. At number 18, players shooting so hard, they break the glass. Now, if you've ever been to an NHL game, you know that the glass behind the net is pretty solid. But there are some players who can shoot so hard that they can break it. One of the most famous examples was Al MacInnis, who was known for his crazy hard slap shot. In one game, he took a shot that was so powerful, it shattered the glass behind the net. I mean, can you imagine the sound of that? Boom! The fans and announcers were in complete shock, and the game had to be paused while they cleaned up the mess. Taking the number 17 spot, the 6-hour playoff game that went past 2 a.m. I don't know about you, but if I'm at a game and it goes into overtime, I'm already pretty exhausted. But in 2023, the Florida Panthers and Carolina Hurricanes played a game that lasted 4 overtimes, making it one of the longest games in NHL history. The game lasted over 6 hours, and fans were literally sleeping in their seats. I mean, who can blame them? By the time Matthew Tkachuk scored the game-winning goal, it was already 2 a.m., and the arena was full of people who were beyond exhausted. At number 16, the Flyers' crazy mascot. All right, I've got to talk about Gritty, the Philadelphia Flyers mascot. If you don't know Gritty, you've been living under a rock. This wild and chaotic mascot has become a legend in the NHL. Whether it's streaking across the ice, bullying kids, or getting into fights with goalies, Gritty's antics never fail to entertain. Like, for real. One moment that stands out is when he went after a goalie on the ice. I mean, who does that? But Gritty doesn't care. He's out there to create chaos, and he does it better than anyone. At number 15, the fan who mocked a player, then got hit in the face. It's always funny when karma catches up to people, and one fan got exactly what they deserved during a game between the Chicago Blackhawks and the Nashville Predators. After Steve Sullivan took a stick to the face, a fan started mocking him. But later in the game, the puck went flying into the stands and hit that very same fan right in the face. That's karma at its finest, guys. You can't laugh at a player and then expect the universe not to come back and hit you where it hurts. I couldn't stop laughing when I saw that. At number 14, Trevor Zegras, rizzing up reporters. Trevor Zegras is known for his incredible skills on the ice, and he's also known for making headlines off the ice. When a reporter asked him about his Christmas wish, Zegras didn't just answer with a typical response. He actually pulled off one of the slickest lacrosse-style goals right in front of her. The reporter had asked him for a special gift, and Zegras didn't disappoint. It was like he was a hockey player and heartthrob all wrapped into one. At number 13, Zamboni driver became an NHL goalie. And won. This might be one of the most inspirational underdog stories in hockey history. Imagine this. You're a 42-year-old Zamboni driver for the Toronto Maple Leafs, living a quiet life, when suddenly, you're called into action as an NHL goalie. That's exactly what happened to David Ayres. The Carolina Hurricanes had both of their goaltenders go down with injuries, and under NHL rules, the home team must provide an emergency backup goalie, EBUG. That meant Ayres, who had never played in the NHL, was thrown into the game. At first, it didn't look great. He let in 2 quick goals. But then, something incredible happened. He settled in, made some amazing saves, and ended up winning the game against the very team that employed him. The Hurricanes celebrated him like a hero, and his story became one of the greatest in sports history. At number 12, the John Scott All-Star Game prank. This one is one of the wildest pranks in NHL history. When the NHL decided to open up the All-Star Game voting to the fans, guess what the fans did? They decided to prank the league by voting in John Scott, a 6'8" enforcer who had only scored 5 goals in his entire career. At first, the NHL was furious, but guess what? Scott ended up being selected as the captain of the Pacific Division team. And to make things even crazier, Scott went on to win the All-Star Game MVP, which left the NHL with egg on its face. Fans were hyped, and Scott proved that sometimes the underdog really can win. At number 11, when Patrick Roy forgets, he's a goalie. All right, let's talk about a true classic one. Patrick Roy, one of the greatest goalies of all time, had a moment that is now legendary in NHL history for all the wrong reasons. It was a regular season game, and Roy, for some unknown reason, decided to carry the puck past the center line. As a goalie, you're not allowed to do that. It's against the rules. But Roy was so determined to make an epic play that he didn't even realize what was happening. It was almost as if he was saying, "Forget the game, I'm going for the highlight reel." He wanted to be a forward for a moment, but unfortunately, the refs weren't buying it. I mean, come on, how does a goalie forget that? It was a rare misstep in Roy's legendary career, but man, it was funny to watch. At number 10, the worst empty net miss in NHL history. Some mistakes haunt you forever, and for Patrick Stefan, this one was brutal. During a game when Stefan had the easiest goal of his career, a completely empty net, no goalie, no pressure, just tap it in. Somehow he whiffed, lost control of the puck, and Edmonton rushed down the ice to tie the game in the final seconds. I mean, this is every hockey player's nightmare. Imagine going to bed at night knowing you botched the easiest goal ever, and it cost your team the game. Coming in at number 9, Ty Domi versus the fan. If you're sitting behind the penalty box, the last thing you should do is provoke one of the NHL's toughest enforcers. But one Philadelphia Flyers fan apparently didn't get the memo. It happened during a game between the Flyers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Ty Domi, a notorious fighter, was serving a penalty, and of course, Flyers fans weren't going to let him hear the end of it. But one fan in particular got a little too bold. He started yelling and dumping his drink on Domi. Domi, never one to back down, grabbed the fan's collar through a gap in the glass and started swinging. The glass gave way, and the fan fell into the penalty box, where Domi continued to throw punches before security finally broke it up. At number 8, how throwing octopus became a Detroit Red Wings tradition. Hockey traditions can be wild, but nothing tops throwing an octopus onto the ice. This bizarre tradition started in 1952 when 2 Detroit Red Wings fans threw an octopus onto the rink to symbolize the 8 wins needed to win the Stanley Cup at the time. The Wings won the cup that year, and the tradition stuck. Nowadays, it's a full-blown Detroit hockey ritual. At this point, it's so common that arena staff are basically trained to remove octopuses like it's part of the job. Seriously. Only in hockey could something this weird become completely normal. At number 7, the Nashville catfish tradition. When a Predators fan named Bob Wolf decided to imitate the Detroit Red Wings octopus tradition, but with a southern twist. Instead of an 8-legged sea creature, he chose something more familiar to Nashville, a slimy, slippery catfish. At first, the act was just a one-time stunt, but it quickly caught on. Preds fans started bringing catfish to games, smuggling them into the arena wrapped in plastic bags, hidden in their clothes. Even the players started embracing it. During the playoffs, the Predators put a giant inflatable catfish in the stands and even had a catfish toss cam to encourage the madness. Honestly, I don't know what's crazier, the fact that people willingly carry around raw catfish, or the fact that security has had to create catfish smuggling policies. Either way, it's one of the most ridiculous and slightly gross traditions in NHL history. At number 6, when fan threw a live chicken onto the ice, though, this didn't become a tradition, thank God. The incident occurred during a Los Angeles Kings game against the Montreal Canadiens in 1988. A Kings fan somehow smuggled a live chicken into the arena and, unhappy with the team's performance, threw that live chicken onto the ice. The chicken was wearing a purple napkin around its neck, which happens to be the Kings' team color. As you can imagine, the chicken had no idea what was happening. It flapped around in confusion while players and referees just stood there, trying to figure out what to do. Eventually, arena staff had to chase the poor bird down and remove it from the ice. The fan was arrested and charged with animal cruelty. At number 5, the goalie fight that shook Washington. Goalies are known for their calm demeanor and focus, but sometimes things get heated. And that's exactly what happened when two goalies decided to throw down in an epic brawl. Now, I get it. Goalies have to protect their turf. But this fight went to a level that no one expected. The goalie who lost the fight had to leave Washington after that debacle. And let's just say, I understand why. It's one thing to get beat on the ice, but when you get embarrassed on that level, it's hard to show your face again. At number 4, when a NHL team drafted a fake player, frustrated by the long draft process, the Buffalo Sabres decided to pull off one of the greatest pranks in hockey history. In the 11th round, they announced a pick for a player named Taro Tsujimoto from the Tokyo Katanas. The truth is that there was no Tokyo Katanas, and there was no Taro Tsujimoto. The Sabres front office literally invented a fake player just to mess with the league. For weeks, no one knew the truth, and even NHL officials believed he was real. It wasn't until later that Buffalo admitted it was all a joke. This is one of the best hockey pranks ever. At number 3, coach. Throwing a bench on the ice now. This is something you don't see every day. Most coaches get angry and throw tantrums, but this coach took things to a whole new level. After a frustrating loss, he decided to take out his frustration by throwing a whole bench onto the ice. But as you can guess, that move didn't win him any points with the team or management. He got fired shortly after that. At number 2, Jumbotron crashed onto the ice. A 40,000-pound Jumbotron fell straight onto the ice hours before a game. Sounds like a scene from a disaster movie, right? This happened in Buffalo before a Sabres-Bruins game. The teams had just finished their morning skate when the arena's scoreboard cables snapped and the massive screen came crashing down onto center ice. Luckily, no one was standing underneath it. The Sabres had to play without a Jumbotron for weeks, which made for some pretty weird in-game experiences. And finally, at number 1, when hockey fans burn a city. Hockey fans are passionate, but Vancouver fans took it way too far in 2011, far over a hockey game. The Canucks had made it all the way to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and the entire city believed this was finally their year. But then disaster. The Boston Bruins crushed them on home ice. And instead of going home quietly, Canucks fans started flipping cars, setting fires, and looting stores. People were fighting in the streets, riot police had to step in, and even news reporters struggled to stay safe. I get being mad about a loss, but imagine destroying your own city over it. And to make things worse, the Canucks still haven't won a cup, so all that destruction was for nothing. And that's it for today. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss any wild sports moments. I'll see you in the next video.